Namaskar. Welcome to the weekly online class. Diwali is the festival of light, and the brightest light is knowledge. It brings sweetness, fulfillment, and lasting joy. To celebrate, we bring you a special Diwali offer 50% off on the Bhagavad Gita commentary, talks, and books by Jayaji. And for the first 50 orders, a gift straight from the heart. A signed copy by Jayaji on your book or pen drive. Place your order at vedantavision.org. Now, with that spirit of light and wisdom, let us continue our journey into chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Any questions? Yeah.
We need to have spiritual food to satisfy ourselves. So, what is basically the spiritual food we should have?
Question is, what is the spiritual food that we should take in for our spiritual well-being? So essentially it is knowledge of yourself, means knowledge of Atma. But you don't get it straight away like that. You have to follow the spiritual practices of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So what is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is shifting from a sense of entitlement, that it is my right to have good food, to have whatever, to a sense of indebtedness, exact opposite, where you are acutely aware of the fact that you have received so many things for free and in abundance from whom you don't know. And sometimes you know, like in the relative, your parents, the government, the municipality, the fact that you're getting water supply, are you grateful for it? So things like that. And then because of this indebtedness, you develop a service-mindedness towards all. So this is Karma Yoga, and you actually do service. Bhakti Yoga is a sense of gratitude for all that you have received. So it's just a feeling. You may not do anything. It's a feeling of gratitude. Out of that comes service, which is Karma Yoga. But when you feel grateful for all that you have received, you are in a positive state of mind. You're a loving, affectionate person. You reach out to people with good feelings. And that in itself is bhakti. Bhakti is not swearing love to a God that you don't know. And then Jnana Yoga is gaining knowledge. What knowledge? Knowledge of the fact that there is something permanent in and through all the impermanent things of life. So the search for the permanent is Jnana Yoga. Now as you do this, what happens is your selfishness reduces, your desires go down, and to that extent you cultivate this connect with the divine. So that is spiritual food. But we very rarely partake of it. And because we don't, there is a disconnect. So, therefore, all of us, because of this disconnect, we feel a sense of loneliness among people. So, it's not that you don't have people around you. You have your family, you have your friends, you just have society around you. In a place like Mumbai, there is never a place when you're alone. Yet you feel lonely. You feel nobody understands me, nobody is on the same wavelength, so on and so forth. So, whereas when you have this connect with the higher, then even when you're alone, you feel connected with people. So, see, you may be here, you may have a son or daughter far away, in America maybe. But as long as there is love between you, you feel connected. You feel you're cared for. You may be alone here. The opposite is feeling lonely even in the midst of people. Okay? And it's a horrible state to be in because, we are all like that. Not just lonely, but you just feel disconnected from everything. Any other question? That was a good question. Very basic, but good question. Okay, we had completed verse 23 and we continue with 24.
ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्महविः ब्रह्माग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतं ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यं ब्रह्मकर्मसमाधिना.
With this verse is the beginning, is the introduction to the 12 yajnas. And we'll shortly see what they are. 12 sacrifices. So before he starts enumerating the 12 yajnas, he says everything is Brahman. So if you understand what a yajna is, Havan, you've seen Havan being performed? So he says the process of offering is Brahman. So what do you offer? Ahuti means the offering, which is usually ghee, grain, pieces of wood, whatever. The ghee offered is Brahman. Offered by whom? You are also Brahman. In the fire is also Brahman. Brahman shall be attained by one who sees Brahman alone in action. See, this is the mistake most of us make. The mistake we make is we believe that God is different from the world, different from action. So to get to God, we believe we must leave everything and maybe go to an ashram, go to the Himalayas, God knows where. But here he is emphasizing who attains Brahman. One who sees Brahman in action. So while you're acting at work, whatever it is that you're doing, you've got to be able to see God there. If you don't see God there, you're not going to see God anywhere else. Then don't sit there and say, no, you don't know my workplace, it's very materialistic, it's very this, that and the other. Work is never materialistic, it's your attitude towards it. So with this verse, we begin the fourth topic, the 12 yajnas, sacrifices. So what he is doing in this verse is, he enumerates the different aspects of the ritual of yajna, havan, and says, all this is Brahman. And how do you reach Brahman? By seeing Brahman in action, not by giving up action. So see, why does he say that? The principle is, as you think, so you become. not as you do. You can do anything. Right? It is what you think of that matters. So even in our lives, where our focus should be where? On what is it that I'm thinking? We are all sitting here studying the Bhagavad Gita, but what is going on in my mind? Am I at peace? Am I agitated? Am I positive? Or do I have negativities going on in my mind? This morning I had an appointment with a doctor who was talking about how alkalinity in your system is the most important thing to being in good health. If you have acid in your system, and it is not just intake of acid, it is inside you, if there is acid, then how does it affect your spleen, your pancreas, your liver, your intestines, your stomach? And what are the contributing factors to increasing alkalinity? And one of the things he said is, of course he went through other things, but what is relevant here is mind plays a very important role. If you are entertaining negativity, hatred, if there is grief, guilt, all these negative emotions going on in your mind, not only conscious but subconscious. Sometimes you go through experience and you push it in the subconscious, it's lying there, but it's rotting. So all this adds to your acidity, and that cuts down your life because it attacks somewhere or the other. Acidity doesn't attack, but your various organs are trying to cut the acidity. So maybe your kidneys reduce it by 20%, your liver reduces by 20%, and then your lungs try and throw out the carbon dioxide. So either you're breathing heavily or you're coughing or something like that. And you don't understand that the root cause of all this is acidity. And this acid in your system, how corrosive it is and how it destroys you completely. Similarly, negativity in the mind is a cancer. It just destroys you. Therefore, spiritual connect is important. So, spiritual life is not just a part-time rambling of an idle mind. You don't have anything better to do, so follow spirituality. It's not like that. It's an active awareness of a positive mind. So when you feel positive and you want to become a better person, you want to shed your negativities, you want to get closer to God, then that gives you that spurt of positivity. So this verse is chanted before meals. Now every religion has Christians say grace before a meal. I'm sure Muslims also have it. We have this verse and a verse from the 15th chapter. Some people recite the entire 15th chapter, 20 verses of the 15th chapter. Now what is this meant for? When your mind is in a sattvic state, a pure state, a positive state, is at peace, then you are able to take the nutrition of the food and convert it into health. If your mind is agitated, then either you indulge in the food, which means you overeat, or your mind is so agitated that you can't eat, you don't eat. And all these things happen. So when you chant this verse, your mind goes towards the higher, so that indulgence goes down and you eat peacefully, you enjoy the food thoroughly. So whatever you do, if your mind is on the higher, then it's a spiritual activity. So it's not just when you go to a temple, church or mosque that you are doing worship. You can be doing worship while going through your normal activities. There was a guru, a Swami, and in his ashram, and there were students around. So one day apparently he was lying down, and his disciple went and saw that his feet were lying on the Shivalingam. He was sleeping with his feet on the Shivalingam. So he said, "Oh my God, this is blasphemy. You can't put your feet on the lingam." So and I can't wake up the guru. So he picked his feet up and slowly turned it, put it somewhere else. He said, "What is this? Wherever I put his feet, a Shivaling appears under it." You know what that meant? That the guru was in a state of realization. So wherever his feet were, there was a Shivaling. That is the state we should aspire for. That whatever we do, wherever we are, whatever we say, whoever we are interacting with, what we are doing is spiritual activity, because our thought is on Atman. Today is just the opposite. Even when we are doing spiritual activity, like you're here, your mind is gone. Where is it gone? Oh, I was supposed to do this at work and I forgot. Or I'm catching a flight tomorrow somewhere. Whatever it is, your mind rambles. And why does the mind ramble, or where does the mind go? Wherever you have a desire. Why does the mind not stay here? Because there is no desire here. The desire for the Bhagavad Gita or for self-evolution is not strong enough for you to keep it here. So the bottom line is, you become whatever you think. You think of the body, you become the body. Think of the mind, you become an emotional person. Think of the intellect, you become a highly intellectual person. Think of Atman, you become God. Simple. But you can't sit here and think of God. That's not the way. What is the way? Deal with desires. Karma, bhakti, jnana yogas. See, this doctor I met this morning, he was saying, you must actually write down. Write down what are the things you ought to do, what are the things you ought not, that you must avoid completely, what are the things that impact on your health, and grade yourself. Today, and then maybe after a week, then you know clearly what you're doing. Otherwise, you think you're doing it and you're not doing it. What did you have for lunch today? Do you remember? No, you don't. Details you don't remember. Why don't you remember? Because there is no intellectual awareness. The mind takes over. And when the mind takes over, you indulge. You don't know whether you had 5 puris or 10 puris. You don't know whether you had 2 helpings of dessert or 3. You don't know how much you overate. And this happens at every meal. You might say, oh, no, I'm positive in my thinking. But how many times you thought negatively of people You don't know because it's the mind that takes over. So the first step is intellectual awareness, and what helps it is to write down everything. And then what happens? Your intellect becomes sharp, it becomes available to you, and suddenly you realize, oh my God, I'm eating a lot of unhealthy stuff. I'm thinking a lot of negative thoughts. So that's what it is. Next, 25.
दैवमेवापरे यज्ञम् योगिनः पर्युपासते ब्रह्माज्ञावपरे यज्ञम् यज्ञेनैवोपजुह्वति.
Some yogis, spiritual practitioners, perform sacrifice to devas, gods. We'll explain what devas is. Others sacrifice by offering sacrifice itself into the fire of Brahman. Now, let's get back to the basics. Our life consists of 3 transactions. The 3 transactions are, number 1, receipt of stimuli from the world. So the world enters us through 5 sense organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Having entered us, these stimuli are carried to the sense center in the brain, in the mind. And at these sense centers, there is a reaction. This is the second R. First R is receipt of stimuli. Second R is reaction of the stimulus that has entered you with the desires that are already in your mind and intellect. So, even if the stimulus is negative, if what has entered you is negative, but your mind is full of positivity, then what happens? It neutralizes this negative thought. And you say, "Theek hai, these things happen in the world. It will get okay, it will get dealt with." Or if you are already negative, then it sparks off a conflagration. Say, "How dare he, stupid fellow, no. Similarly, if the stimulus is positive and your mind is negative, you can convert any positivity into negativity. Someone is nice to you, you say, "Hypocrite." So, watch out for first of all, make sure the receipts are positive. Second, ensure that your reactions are positive. And if they are negative, do something about it. And then the last is reaction back into the world. Your actions, responses back into the world. How do you respond? What kind of actions do you perform? Are they selfish? Unselfish? What is it? So, then what he has done here is, he has converted these 3, subdivided them into 12 interactions, 12 activities, and told us a way of converting every aspect of your life to worship. See, in the 3rd chapter, what he's done is, he has asked you to fix a higher goal and dedicate all your actions towards that higher goal. But that doesn't include all your entire personality. Here in the 4th chapter, he goes subtler. That is why he says the culmination of action in wisdom Wisdom is important in chapter 4. So what he's done is tried to convert whatever it is that we're doing into worship. Now, in a yajna, in a havan, in this ritual, there are two aspects. One is your offering. You offer ghee, grain, pieces of wood, whatever it is, you offer into the fire. And the second is the kindling. When you offer an inflammable object into the fire, what happens to the fire? It shoots up. So there is an offering and a kindling. Kindling, you understand? Kindle. You kindle a fire. You kindle a thought in somebody. So what he's saying is some yogis, a yogi is one on the path of yoga. Yoga means union with God, union with yourself. Yoga is not, in this context, yoga is not just asanas and pranayam. Yoga, it comes from the root yuja, which means to join back to yourself. So some yogis perform sacrifice to devas. If the word deva is used in plural, it is not God. It is limited worldly goals that you work for, which are higher than you, so they're unselfish, but they're still worldly. They're not the absolute goal. If he's talking about the absolute goal, he would use the word deva in singular, because there can be only one God. There are no multiple gods. So, an example of devas in plural is you work for your community, your educational institution. Like, Bose, the gentleman, Indian gentleman, who started the Bose system of earphones, all kinds of things. He donated his entire fortune to MIT because he felt that his education was largely in MIT and that he was what he was because of that institution. And he wanted to help other students also achieve excellence like that. So that is a deva. It's not the absolute spiritual goal, but it's a goal beyond your personal interests, selfish interests. So that is one category, limited goals. Then he says, others sacrifice by offering sacrifice itself into the fire of Brahman. Now you have to follow. So there are two kinds of ideals. One is limited, the other is absolute. Here is a person who wants only God realization. He's not interested in anything else. Like Nachiketa. So, as you evolve, see, because we are a mix of selfish, unselfish, all of that. So, as you evolve spiritually, what happens? All your actions become sacrificial. Everything you do is an act dedicated to God. So, right at the end, what will you sacrifice? What will you give? What will you offer? Sacrifice itself. Because here is a person who's not doing anything else, only sacrifice. But that is also a thought, an action in the world. So for you to get to God, you have to give up the last thought also. And that last thought, when you give up, what remains is Atman. You've reached the goal. Is that clear? Everyone understood this? Huh? Yes, that's why we're giving you a printout. Yes. Sacrifice means give. What will you give? Sacrifice itself, because all your actions are sacrifice. What is the meaning of sacrifice? You are doing something for someone else, not for yourself. So the last thought is also a sacrificial thought. In fact, as you grow spiritually towards the end, you're left with only 2 or 3 desires. One, of course, is to get to God. Second is to serve your guru, because he or she is the one who has taken you to that state. And third is to serve the world. That is all that you want to do. So what do you give up? That. Understood? Okay, so in this diagram, you see right in the center one limited ideal. That is the first sentence that he says. Some yogis perform sacrifice to the devas, to a limited ideal. Others sacrifice by offering sacrifice itself into the fire of Brahman. Because everything he does is sacrificial, so what he's left with is only sacrifice. He gives up that. So, both must sacrifice. Both the first person who's working for a limited worldly goal also must sacrifice. The person who's working for God realization also must sacrifice. In fact, anybody who wants to achieve anything in the world also, success, must sacrifice. Have you seen a successful business person? What does he do? Do you know the richest guys in the world, they have taken statistics. What time do they wake up? 5:30? No. 4 o'clock only spiritual guys wake up. The billionaires of the world wake up at 5:30 and they work through the day. They are the hardest working people. And then here in Mumbai, the traders of, what is it called? Princess Street. What time do they go to work? 12. There's a guy, when we were in Delhi, he sent a message to us. I was asleep when you called. 10:30 in the morning, the guy is asleep on a working day. He'll never be successful. So that's it. Sacrifice and hard work are absolutely essential, whatever it is you want to achieve in life. You want to earn money? Sacrifice. You want to be a successful doctor? Sacrifice. You know how hard doctors work? Nowadays, that's why nobody wants to be a doctor. Because they say, who wants to work hard? I'll sit here and invest in the stock market and make money. That doesn't happen. Lawyers, they'll call a lawyer at 11 p.m., he's still in his office. So that's it. In the end of your life, end of your spiritual journey, whatever you do is sacrificial. That is why in our culture, rishis, sages, the people don't pass judgment on them. Because whatever they do is good, is sacrificial. So they're accepting of all of them. But that last thought also has to be given up if you want to move to the state of realization. So it's beautifully put. So the 12 yajnas are, first and second have been taken care of in this verse. Okay? And you have to keep track of these 12 encapsulate receipt of stimuli, reaction in the mind, and response. Are you finding it difficult? So number 3 is sense perception. So there is stimulus comes to you. You see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Huh? Right now you're listening. Sound reaches your ear. It's taken to the mind. It is registered. So you hear. Huh? Just by the sound reaching your ear, you don't hear. You go home and see. When a mother talks to her child, usually, because the child knows what the mother is going to say, come have dinner, go have a bath, go to sleep, she goes on. The daughter is not interested in listening. So what happens? She's switched off. She's not listening. The sound reaches, but she's not listening. So that's not the sense perception is when the sense stimulus enters you and is registered, you actually hear. That's third. Fourth is there is a development to this, which means you control the sense perception. You control how much you're watching. You're not binge watching on Netflix. Binge watching means what? No control. So the intellect comes in and decides how much you're going to perceive. See, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Then, sense control is 5 different. That means each one your intellect should control. Now, what happens with us is we control 1 or 2 and the rest are not controlled. Like, typical example, there are ladies who are very thin, slim, they're very particular about their diet. Every gram of food that enters them is intercepted by the intellect. But gossiping, no control. So therefore, here since in sense control, everyone has to be controlled separately. Then comes self-restraint. Now, you're not doing controlling your eating just because you want to be slim and you want to look good. You want to get to the state of realization. And you know that in order to get there, I need to control everything. So there is only one control. It's so beautifully put. Just in the use of the word Agni and Agni, fire, is used in the singular when the goal is self-realization, because there is only one control. And the prior one, sense control, he uses plural. So in just this, singular and plural, he communicates to us that one control is enough when your goal is self-realization. Do you understand that? So you control everything. So up to here is receipt of stimuli and reaction. Now he starts action, response back into the world. There are 4 types of actions. Action means giving. See, Krishna is at a state where he doesn't understand taking, selfishness. So when he talks about action, it is giving. When you give, there are 4 ways in which you give. One is dravya yajna. You write out a check to somebody, you make a GPay, you UPI payment, cash, check, whatever it is, you give money. When you give money, what are you giving? Wealth, money, can be converted to what? Sense objects. So when you give money, you're giving sense objects. Second is tapo yajna, means penance, means it's far superior to just giving money. Because let's say your friend is shifting house. If you give money to her, what use is it? What does she need? Help. in packing, putting things together, shifting to the new house, unpacking, maybe cooking food and whatever it is. So you offer your body in a way, your physical service. You go and actually do things for them. Third, yoga yajna. You give your love. You give knowledge. Far superior to both money and physical effort. Just a gesture is enough to make a person feel completely good. A troubled soul, for whatever reason the person is troubled, has lost somebody or is going through some whatever trauma in life, giving money doesn't mean anything to the person. And even if you go and help make food for her, it doesn't really help. What helps is a gesture to say that I'm with you, I understand what you're going through, and I'm with you. Or giving knowledge. Like as they say, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So you give knowledge. And that is far more valuable. But the last one, Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna, means you take in spiritual knowledge, you become a better person, you become a spiritually evolved person. That is the best form of giving, because in that, what are you giving? Atman. What a brilliant way. See, and it's so beautiful because in the first two, Dravya Yajna and Tapo Yajna, you give, the donor gives. The recipient's wealth increases, the donor's wealth reduces. Similarly, in Tapo Yajna, the recipient's physical well-being improves and the donor's energy reduces because you've already spent that energy. In Yoga Yajna and Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna, there is no loss. The more you love, the more you have. The more knowledge you give, the more knowledgeable you are. And the more spirit you give, you become evolved. So it's a beautiful way of saying that in giving, you actually get enriched. Then he connects, takes you back to where you started by prana, means breathing. There is inhalation and exhalation that we are doing all the time, right? Whether you're awake, sleeping, dreaming, you're breathing. Every breath you take, if you consider it as a yajna happening, a spiritual activity happening, you can never forget Atma. Huh? You can never forget God. That's why take a deep breath, think of God. Do a deep exhalation, think of God. It's fabulous. Then you're never disconnected. So the next time you get caught in traffic, don't sit there and curse. Say what? Thank God, I have an opportunity to practice yajna. Just breathe. Just breathe means you're breathing anyway. And then pranayama is a control of breath, where it becomes longer and deeper and regulated breath. That gives you that internal vigor, energy. This internal vigor that you have generated, you give it back into the world, that completes the 12. So take this back home with you. Think about it. Next time when we meet, if you have a question, ask.
But this means like breath is also a form of japa only. whatever you said in japa, inhaling and exhaling, that is also japa.
if you make it that. So, yajna number 1 is a worldly goal, devas, where the offering is your talent, your ability, your skill, and what is kindled is the organization's well-being, whether it's a company you work for, or the NGO you work for, or your country, whatever it is. Yajna number 2, spiritual goal, Brahman. Offering is sacrifice, what is kindled is Brahman. Next verse.
श्रोत्रादीनीन्द्रियाण्यन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्दादीन् विषयानन्ये इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति.
Others offer ear and other organs as sacrifice in the fires of self-control. Remember I said plural. Others offer sound and other sense objects as sacrifice in the fires of the sense organs. So the yajna number 3 is sense perception. The offering is sound, sight, smell, taste and touch. What is kindled is perception, hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. Yajna number 4 is sense control, where the offering is hearing itself. You've already heard. You offer that, and what is kindled is sense control. And the important thing here is the interjection of the intellect. When the intellect starts playing a role, there is sense control. I've just explained all the 12. These verses elaborate on them. Next, 27.
सर्वाणीन्द्रियकर्माणि प्राणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मसंयमयोगाग्नौ जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते.
Others sacrifice all the actions of the senses and the functions of prana, vital energy, in the fire, singular, of yoga, of self-restraint, kindled by wisdom. So you see, when you have realization as the goal, when you have spiritual development as the goal, and along the way, because you're doing a lot of unselfish work, enjoyment comes to you. Firstly, your normal everyday life you enjoy. Plus, outstanding things come to you. Why? Because you deserve it. You worked hard for it. You haven't worked for it. You worked for spiritual development. You worked for service to humanity. But it comes. Like Gandhiji, he lived a simple life. But he was hosted by one of the billionaires of the country. He didn't have to look after his own house or think about where he's getting the money from. Things like that. You sacrifice for a cause and the cause takes care of you. So, you can enjoy it. You need not deny it. You don't have to lead a life of torture and self-denial. Enjoy it. But perception must end with perception. Means, let's say you are invited somewhere and they offer you a food item that you've never eaten before. It's extremely tasty, very enjoyable. You eat it. The moment you swallow the food, what has happened? Perception ends. In your mind, it should end there. It should not cause a further ripple of thoughts in your mind about that food item. Because what happens is, then you come back to Mumbai and you're thinking of that. With that, what happens? You have now created a fresh desire in your mind, which was not the purpose. You had gone to Delhi not for this, you had gone for a spiritual thing. And you've come back doing what? Adding to your desires. You've gone downhill. So, therefore, a person who has the goal clear enjoys what comes, but ends perception with perception. There is no lingering in the enjoyment. You enjoy fully, but no desires created. So then you're moving in one direction. Otherwise, you know what happens? You go to Delhi, pick up one desire and come back. Then you go somewhere else, pick up another desire. You go somewhere else, you get attached to somebody there. So by the time you're done with 1 month of living, your goal has gone to you've forgotten about the goal. What are you thinking of? Whatever you get attached to here, food item here, something else there, fabric there, your life is a mess. Is this not what is happening to us? So it's very important to control this. Yoga of sense control is very important. And when you have a singular goal, one goal, then that control is enough to control everything. Because everything that you come in contact with, you compare it with your goal. Is this activity, is this attachment, whatever it is that I'm doing, taking me closer to the goal? If yes, only then continue. If not, cut. Ruthlessly cut. Cut activities. Every week you're going to the club. Cut. If it doesn't take you to realization. Then suddenly you start playing bridge or mahjong, all this new craze. Is this taking me to realization? Definitely not. Cut it. But that's not what we do. And before you know it, you're playing competitions. Next verse.
द्रव्ययज्ञास्तपो यज्ञाः योगयज्ञास्तथा परे स्वाध्यायज्ञानयज्ञाश्च यतयः संशितव्रताः.
Others again offer wealth as sacrifice, penance as sacrifice, yoga, spiritual practice as sacrifice, and ascetics of strict vows offer knowledge of self as sacrifice. So, yajna number 6, you all have that paper, refer to it. Dravya yajna, wealth. So, what you offer is you're donating money. What you're offering is your wealth, and what is kindled is the recipient's wealth. So your wealth goes down, the recipient's wealth increases. And this is not just wealth, it could be anything. You give blankets, you give food, you give, what else do you give? You build a school, that is also Dravya Yajna. So anything that is money and connected with money, concerned with money. Now he's talking of giving here, all 4 are giving. Before we get into that, we must first develop the attitude of giving, right? Nobody has the attitude of giving. In Delhi, we were in Delhi for a series of lectures. And at the end of the lectures, there is a ritual because the lectures have been free and you give the audience an opportunity to give back. Not to me, to the cause of what? Spreading the knowledge of Vedanta. And in return, we give prasad. Now, that prasad is a token of the mental peace that you get after you engage in a spiritual activity. So, I was watching. Majority of people broke the queue and came, collected the prasad, went without offering anything. Which means they still have the attitude of taking. What do you want to grab? Prasad. And that too, after it's all over, you come back and ask for more. That is the most shameful thing that I. Why can't you go and buy pedas, yeah? You want to eat peda? Go buy. I'll tell you where it's available. And it's not that we don't want to give, please. I'll be very happy to give. But I'm talking about the attitude. We all want freebies. Have you ever in your life had a discussion among your family members, over dinner maybe, about how much to donate, how much charity to do? Have you ever considered that? No. See, I see around here, the husband is doing business, he is earning a lot of money. The wife starts making, what is it? Sushi at home and selling it. Snacks. What do the children learn? Same thing. Make money. And therefore, there is no growth in India. Number of billionaires, number of millionaires are increasing, but the poor are remaining poor. You must develop this attitude of giving, because if you don't, nature will take it away from you. It will be wrenched away from you with interest. Not a banker's interest, not a moneylender's interest, divine interest, which is a killer. So, you have to choose. Either you give voluntarily or it will be taken away from you. Some loss somewhere. Next time you lose money, don't cry. Understand that what you owed has been taken away from you. That's all there is. A person who gives, a giver, never loses. He only benefits. I know people who have attended lectures for the past 15, 20 years in Delhi, here, everywhere. Not a penny have they donated. And when one of our people approached them, that we don't have a sponsor this time, would you like to donate? She had to listen to a lecture and still she didn't give. This is it. And then what happened? 2 years that lady was in depression, busy taking antidepressants. I'm not happy about it. All I'm saying is the law of karma functions. If you don't give, there are the repercussions that you have to face. I'm not saying give to us. Give wherever. So, yajna number 7 is penance, where the offering is your comfort and the recipient's comfort is enhanced. Yajna number 8 is spiritual practice, where you're offering your mind and intellect. You know, a simple thing like you understand what the person is going through and just reach out. You don't even have to say anything. You just feel. And that's enough. What are you giving? Your heart. And that it doesn't cost money to give your heart to people. At least give that. No. And knowledge. Again, the more love you give, the more knowledge you give, the more yours is enhanced. And the last is self-knowledge. The offering, what you offer is your ignorance, and what is kindled is knowledge of self within you. And once you become a self-realized person or a spiritually evolved person, what you give to others is Atman, most valuable thing. Now he moves to prana and apana.
अपाने जुह्वति प्राणं प्राणे पानं तथा परे प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायामपरायणाः.
Still others sacrifice prana, inhalation, into apana, exhalation, and apana, exhalation, into prana, inhalation. By regulating the movement of prana and apana, some are absorbed in pranayama, control of breath. So now he is focusing on breath, okay? Taking a deep breath. When inhalation is completed, exhalation automatically starts, is kindled, okay? So every time you take in a breath, consider you're doing yajna. Consider you're sacrificing to God. So with every breath, you're remembering Atman, just normal breathing. You don't have to strain, you don't have to make it deeper, you don't have to make it longer, just normal breath, whatever your normal breath is. But be aware. And every time inhalation is completed, exhalation is kindled. When exhalation is completed, breathe out. When exhalation is fully finished, inhalation is kindled. When that is happening, you consider you've given your ahuti. Meaning, yajna is going on. It's a fabulous concept. And you can practice this anywhere, anytime, except now. Now, because we're studying. On your way home, practice it. You're breathing. And see what a difference it makes in your mind. Otherwise, what will you think of? What's for dinner? What will I have? Maybe I can order. All kinds of thoughts will come. Instead, thinking of Atman. This is yajna number 10. Then,
This means inhaling it is also a way to contribute towards our awareness toward Atman.
you use your breath to convert it into a spiritual activity. Then, the next yajna is, he says, pranayama. You're absorbed in pranayama. How? You control your inhalation and exhalation. There are different kinds of pranayama that you can practice. But the important thing there is that you use your awareness, your intellect to control it. So either you hasten it or you make it slower, deeper. There are different ways in which you do pranayama. With that, what happens is, what you're offering is regulated prana and apana. So the inhalation and exhalation is regulated. And what you're kindling is pranayama, which gives you strength, which enriches you. And this is true of all intake and output. He's not just talking about breath. It includes food. And you must regulate it. How much food are you eating? How much waste are you throwing out? Every aspect must be looked into if you want to live a healthy, active life. Emotions Are you just taking in emotions and not giving? Or are you only giving and not taking? There must be a balance. Similarly, ideas, thoughts. There are people who give a lot and then their energy is depleted. They're not taking. So, taking means gaining knowledge. So, the input and output has to be balanced. Otherwise, if it's inadequate or not balanced, it saps you of energy. Talking, there are people who talk all the time, never listen. Or there are others that are quiet, they're only listening, they're not talking. So balance, and that balance is individual. There are certain types of people who are very extroverted, they need to talk all the time. That's their balance. And there are others who are quiet, who think more. They need their space. They need to just keep quiet. That is their balance. So balance is different for different people. Next verse, 30.
अपरे नियताहाराः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वेऽप्येते यज्ञविदः यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः.
Others of disciplined diet offer prana, vital airs, into prana. All these are knowers of yajna, sacrifice, having destroyed their sins by yajna. So, in the last yajna, yajna number 12, what happens is, it's of external dynamism. Now, through pranayam, you have cultivated energy, internal energy, vigor. So, that you offer. And what is kindled is external dynamism, means you become an active person, you generate this activity and dynamism in society. So it started with perception, first yajna, and it goes right through this entire cycle and goes back into the world. Throughout this, in every activity, you're trying to think of Atman. So these 12 yajnas show us how to convert ordinary mundane activity to worship. Because he says, all these are knowers of sacrifice, not the guys who are praying, not the fellows in an ashram, not the guys in a temple, church or mosque, these people. So it's, worship is not just mechanical activity. It's not sitting there and throwing flowers into the thing, or I don't know what is done, or repeating a mantra without understanding the meaning. It's not mechanical activity. It is an active, alert, redirecting your thoughts towards the higher and maintaining this constancy of thought. See, consistency is the most important thing in any activity. Whatever you do, it is far more important than talent. There may be a talented cricketer, but if he's inconsistent, he won't achieve anything. And there may be another person who's not that talented, but consistent. He keeps on and on and on and on. He'll succeed. So the actual yajna that is performed, that is an elaborate ritual. Have you seen how they do it? So the measurement has to be perfect of the Havan Kund. The position in which you sit has to be proper. Then the construction of that Havan Kund has to be according to the Shastras. And then the specific type of wood that you have to select for different kinds of yajna. Then the samagri, they call it, the whatever you need, ingredients of that thing, the ahuti, all that. And they go into elaborate rituals for that, so much trouble. But in the end, if their thought is not on the higher and they're only thinking of has this been done properly, they are not knowers of Brahman. They are knowers of the ritual. But there could be a person who's doing all these 12 yajnas and he has no clue what the ritual is. He is a knower of yajna. So, by sacrifice, you destroy sin. Sin means mental agitation, desires, vasanas. Then he says, by seeing Brahman in all activities, you become Brahman. So, we've given you this sheet. Please take it home. Think about it. They're very simple. Every one of them, try it out in your life. This 1 week, practice the 12 yajnas. Very simple. Every time each one of these is happening, remember Brahman. That's it. And next week, we'll discuss what your experiences are. We're meeting next week, right? Okay? Thank you.